You know that moment when your life flips like a damn coin, and suddenly you're staring at the ugly side? Yeah. Mine happened on a Wednesday. I walked into my dad's office tower, a place I'd been avoiding for years, partly because I didn't want anyone thinking I was getting handouts. The air smelled like money. Polished marble floors, soft lighting, receptionists who could pass for models. Dad runs a $5 billion company, but to me, he's still the guy who used to yell at me for not mowing the lawn straight. And then I saw her, Madison, my wife. Well, my wife as of that morning. She was standing next to some slick-haired clown in a $3,000 suit, laughing like she just heard the funniest joke in the world. I knew that laugh. It was her "look how important I am" laugh, the one she used to save for dinner parties. She spotted me, and her smirk widened like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. "Well, look who it is," she said loud enough for half the lobby to hear. "Here to beg for a job, poor guy?" I froze. Not because of her words, I'd been called worse, but because of the way she said them. No hesitation, no shame, just pure venom wrapped in sugar. The clown next to her, his name I'd later find out was Troy, slid an arm around her waist like he owned her. "Poor guys aren't allowed here," he said, chuckling like it was some private joke between them. Before I could spit out a reply, a voice thundered from across the lobby. "Enough!" It was my dad. The man doesn't raise his voice unless the world's ending. So when he barked, the entire room shut up. "I fired your father," he said, glaring at Troy. Then his eyes shifted to Madison, cold as ice. "Both of you, get out." Madison blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" Dad didn't even answer her. He just pointed to the door like he was sweeping trash off the porch. They left in a storm of perfume and cologne, but not before Madison shot me one last look, a twisted mix of triumph and pity. And in that moment I knew. The late nights with the girls, the sudden new dresses, the cold distance in bed, it had all been leading here. She hadn't just found a new man. She traded me in like a used car. I stood there, my heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest, and all I could think was, what the hell just happened to my life? Looking back, the signs were everywhere. But when you're in love, or at least when you think you are, you train yourself not to see them. You call it trust. Turns out it's just self-inflicted blindness. The first crack showed up about 4 months before the lobby scene. Madison had always been a social butterfly, sure, but suddenly, girls' night became a twice-a-week thing. Then 3 times. Then every damn night I worked late. She'd come home smelling like some high-end cologne that wasn't mine, claiming it was probably from the bar, or someone must have hugged me goodbye. I remember one night in particular, early February. I was at home, half asleep on the couch when she walked in wearing a dress I'd never seen before, blood red, hugging every curve. She didn't even notice me until she tossed her purse on the counter. "Whoa," I said, sitting up. "That new?" "Yeah," she replied without looking at me. "Got it on sale. Don't get excited. It's just a dress." That was Madison, deflect first, lie second, keep moving. I wanted to believe her, so I did. Like an idiot. The second crack came with her phone. She'd always been open with it, scrolling next to me on the couch, laughing at memes. But suddenly she had a lock code. And not just a lock code. She'd flip the screen down anytime I walked into the room. "What's with the spy moves?" I joked once. "Privacy, ever heard of it?" She shot back, sharper than necessary. I told myself maybe I was overstepping. That's what she wanted me to think. Then came the third crack, money. Our joint account started leaking like a busted pipe. Uber rides to neighborhoods she had no reason to be in. Dinners at places where a steak costs more than my first car payment. When I asked, she claimed it was for work networking or helping a friend out. She was good at lying, almost professional. The turning point, though, was that weekend in March. I'd been planning a surprise trip for us. 3 days in the mountains, just the two of us. But when I told her, she looked like I'd suggested a trip to the DMV. "Oh, babe, that weekend won't work. I promised Laura I'd help her move." "Laura?" I asked. "Didn't she move last year?" She froze for half a second, half a damn second, but I caught it. "Oh, I meant her sister." "Whatever. Same thing. That's when the gut feeling started to gnaw at me. And once that voice wakes up inside you, you can't shut it down. I started noticing the little things. New lingerie hidden in drawers, unexplained scratches on her neck, the way her voice got higher when she said certain names. And then came the real nail in the coffin. Late one night, I got up for water and heard her in the bathroom, whispering into her phone. My name came up twice, then laughter, then her saying, "No, he's too clueless. Trust me." I didn't confront her then. Not yet, because I wanted proof. Solid, undeniable, end-of-the-world proof. That proof came sooner than I expected, and in the most humiliating place possible. The morning of the office scene, I wasn't even supposed to be at my dad's building. I'd gone there because he'd called me, saying he needed to talk about family business. I didn't expect to walk into the lobby and find my wife wrapped around another man. I didn't expect her to look me in the eye and laugh. And I sure as hell didn't expect my dad to blow it all wide open in front of half his staff. But maybe, deep down, I had already known. I just hadn't been ready to admit it that I didn't go home right after the office explosion. I drove around for an hour trying to keep my hands steady on the wheel. My chest felt like it had a live wire running through it. Every red light was an invitation to turn around and hunt Troy down. But I knew if I saw him again right then, I might do something that would land me in handcuffs. When I finally pulled into the driveway, Madison's car was already there. Figures. The woman had just been tossed out of a skyscraper lobby like a con artist, and she still beat me home. I walked in to find her pouring herself a glass of wine like it was any other Tuesday. "Wow," she said without looking up. "That was dramatic." I stared at her. "Dramatic? That's what you call it." She shrugged, swirling her drink. "You know your dad's always been theatrical. I guess it runs in the family." I stepped closer. "Don't play games with me, Madison. Who is he? And don't give me some crap about just a friend." She laughed. Actually laughed. "You mean Troy? He's someone who knows how to take care of a woman. Someone who doesn't spend his nights chasing his daddy's approval." That one hit like a punch. "You've been lying to me for months?" I said, my voice shaking. Not from fear, but from trying to keep my rage under control. She finally looked at me then, her eyes sharp and cold. "You act like you're the victim here, but maybe if you'd been a real man." "A real man?" I cut in. "You mean a guy with more money? A guy with a flashier car?" She smirked. "At least he's not afraid to use what he has. You could have had all of that, but you were too busy pretending you didn't need your father's help." Clicked then. She hadn't just fallen for Troy. She'd been eyeing the power, the lifestyle, the gold trim on everything. I was just the stepping stone. "You think Troy's gonna give you all that?" I asked. "You don't even know what's coming." "Oh, please," she scoffed. "You'll be lucky if you can even pay your half of the rent next month. Meanwhile, I'll be—" I slammed my hand down on the counter, and the wine glass rattled. "Meanwhile, you'll be nothing when your new boyfriend's daddy calls to tell him he's fired." That's right, Madison. He was working for my dad. And now, he's done. Both of you are. For the first time, her smirk faltered. "You're lying," she said, but there was no conviction in it. "Call him," I said. "Go ahead. See if he picks up." She pulled her phone from her purse with shaking fingers, dialed, and waited. No answer. She tried again. Straight to voicemail. Her eyes darted to me. "This doesn't change anything." "Oh, it changes everything," I said. "Because now you're not just a liar. You're a liar who bet on the wrong horse." For a split second, I thought I saw fear in her eyes. But it vanished under that same icy exterior she always hid behind. "You'll regret this," she said, grabbing her keys. "You'll regret losing me." I let her walk out without another word. Watching her go felt like tearing off a bandage. Ugly, bloody, but freeing in a way I couldn't yet explain. I didn't know it at the time, but that was the last night she'd ever sleep under my roof. The silence after she left was deafening. It's strange, you think the worst part of betrayal is catching them in the act. But no, the worst part is the stillness afterward, when you're sitting in a house that still smells like her perfume. staring at the indentation she left on the couch cushion. I sat there for hours. No TV, no phone, just the ticking of the kitchen clock and my own thoughts clawing at my skull. Every room I looked at was a crime scene. The hallway where she used to lean against the wall and tease me for taking too long to get ready. The kitchen where she once burned pancakes but insisted they were extra crispy on purpose. The bedroom, I couldn't even step in there. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. First text was from Liam, my oldest friend. Dude, I didn't want to get involved before, but I saw Madison at a hotel last month with some guy. Didn't think it was my place to say. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Not your place? What the hell does that even mean when your buddy's wife is sneaking around? Another message came in, this time from Amy, one of Madison's so-called friends. I'm sorry. I tried to tell her she was making a mistake. She said Troy was going to give her everything you couldn't. I laughed out loud, bitter and sharp. Everything I couldn't? She didn't even know what everything meant. She thought it was champagne and designer handbags. But the texts kept coming. People I hadn't heard from in months suddenly remembered my number. Half were "I'm so sorry" messages. The other half were stories, little details they'd forgotten to mention before. Madison flirting at a wedding when I was in the bathroom. Madison networking with a guy in Vegas while I was homesick. Madison kissing someone in the parking lot of some club. By 3 a.m., I had pieced together a whole alternate history of our marriage. One where I'd been the background character in my own life. The anger came next. Not the hot, explosive kind. No, this was cold. Measured. The kind of anger that makes you start thinking in plans, not shouts. I went through the house collecting everything that was hers. Clothes, shoes, hair products, the damn espresso machine she swore she'd die without. Packed it all into garbage bags. I left them by the front door like a donation pile. Somewhere in that haze, I called my dad. She's gone, I said. He didn't ask for details. Good. Don't let her back in. And don't give her the satisfaction of thinking she broke you. Easier said than done. When the sun came up, I realized I hadn't slept. My hands were shaking, not from fatigue, but from the sheer weight of what had happened in the past 24 hours. Yesterday morning, I had a wife. Now I had a stack of trash bags and a phone full of sympathy texts. But underneath the wreckage, something else was stirring. Not hope, not yet, but the faintest sense of clarity. The kind you get when the fog starts to lift and you see the road you've been walking on was headed for a cliff anyway. Madison hadn't just betrayed me. She'd done me a favor I didn't ask for. She ripped off the mask early, before I wasted another decade playing house with a snake. Still, knowing that didn't make the house feel any less empty. By the next morning, the story was already spreading. Not the real story, of course, Madison's version. She'd wasted no time getting on social media, posting one of those fake deep quotes over a photo of her sipping wine. Sometimes you outgrow people who can't match your energy. Yeah. My energy. Sure. Within hours, I started getting screenshots from mutual friends. Madison had told people that I'd been holding her back, that I refused to work hard for a better life, and, my favorite, that she deserved a man who made her feel like a queen. Troy apparently was that man. She even posted a picture with him, taken months before the blow-up at my dad's office. Captioned, "Found my happiness. No regrets." I didn't respond. Not yet. I figured if I stayed quiet, she'd hang herself with her own rope. And, as luck would have it, she did. A week later, Troy's father's firing had become public knowledge in certain business circles. My dad didn't just terminate him quietly, he made an example out of him. Something about lack of integrity and professionalism in the company newsletter. Madison hadn't seen it coming. In her mind, Troy's money train had no brakes. But by the end of the week, Troy's LinkedIn profile had changed to seeking new opportunities, and his Instagram was set to private. That's when the cracks in their little romance started to show. Publicly. Madison's posts shifted from smug to strained. She put up a selfie with the caption, "Life throws challenges, but a queen never breaks." Translation. The ship is sinking and she's trying to look graceful while bailing water with a teacup. Meanwhile, people started connecting the dots. Friends I hadn't talked to in ages suddenly became amateur detectives, dropping comments under her posts like, "Didn't your husband's dad fire Troy's dad? Wait, so you left your husband for an unemployed guy?" She tried deleting the comments, but once the internet smells blood, it doesn't stop. Then came the charity gala. My dad had invited me to attend with him, probably to show me off as the son who actually has a spine. I wasn't planning to go, until I found out Madison and Troy had RSVP'd months ago. I wore my sharpest suit. My dad, of course, looked like royalty. When we walked in, people turned their heads not just because of him, but because they'd heard the gossip. And there they were, Madison in a gold dress, clinging to Troy like a barnacle. She spotted me across the room, and for a second, I thought she might avoid me. But no, Madison never passed up a chance to play a scene. She sauntered over, glass of champagne in hand. "Well, if it isn't the poor guy," she said with that venom-laced smile. Before I could answer, Troy added, "Careful, babe. Poor guys aren't allowed in this crowd." The words had barely left his mouth before my dad's voice cut through the room. "I fired your father. Both of you? Get out." The room went dead silent. Madison's face turned the exact shade of her lipstick. Troy muttered something under his breath, grabbed her wrist, and they left. It wasn't just public humiliation, it was social execution. By the next morning, I didn't need to tell anyone my side of the story. The city was buzzing with the image of Madison and Troy being escorted out of a gala like gatecrashers at a royal wedding. And for the first time since this whole nightmare began, I felt something dangerously close to satisfaction. The Monday after the gala felt different. For the first time in weeks, I woke up without that heavy pit in my stomach. The air in the house felt lighter, like it had been fumigated and the poison was finally clearing out. Madison's perfume had faded from the couch cushions. Her makeup-stained mugs were gone from the kitchen. It was just me, my coffee, and silence, the good kind. I threw myself into work. Not my dad's company, my own projects. I'd been tinkering with a small consulting firm on the side for years, and now that I wasn't bleeding cash into Madison's shopping sprees, I could actually invest in it. I put in 12-hour days, rebuilding not just my business, but my sense of control. People I hadn't seen in months started reaching out. Not out of pity this time, but respect. "Man, the way you handled that at the gala legendary," Liam said over lunch. I shrugged. "Didn't really do anything." "Exactly. That's the point. You didn't take the bait. You let her blow herself up." I didn't say it out loud. But yeah, I played that one right. And then, because life can't resist tossing in one more twist, Madison called. It was a Thursday night. I saw her name flash on my phone and almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want?" I said, not bothering with hello. Her voice was softer than I remembered. "Can we talk? Just for a minute." "We're talking now." "I made a mistake," she said. "Things with Troy, they aren't what I thought. He's different when there's no money." I almost laughed. "So what? You're calling because the gravy train ran out of fuel?" "It's not like that," she said quickly. "I miss us. I miss what we had. I know I hurt you, but maybe we could." "No." The word came out calm, almost casual, but it landed like a hammer. She hesitated. "You're just going to throw away everything we built?" "You threw it away the moment you decided I wasn't good enough unless I came with a gold-plated bank account." There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing. "You'll regret this," she said finally, her voice low. "One day, you'll see I was the best thing that ever happened to you." I hung up without answering. The thing is, I didn't feel triumphant. Not exactly. I felt clear. Like a fog had lifted and I could finally see the landscape of my life without her shadow blotting it out. Over the next few weeks, I doubled down on the rebuild. I hit the gym again, dropped 10 pounds, bought clothes that actually fit. My business picked up steam. Clients liked that I wasn't distracted anymore. I even started getting invites to industry events I used to skip because Madison didn't see the point, unless there were influencers and champagne. Every now and then, I'd hear about her. A friend of a friend spotted her working at a boutique, the kind of place she used to scoff at. Troy was out of the picture entirely. Rumor had it he'd left town. She'd wanted a kingdom without the work, a crown without the weight. And in chasing it, she'd ended up with nothing. I, on the other hand, had my peace back. And that was worth more than every dollar she thought she'd find in Troy's wallet. I thought I'd seen the last of Madison after that phone call. But people like her don't go quietly. When they lose control, they scramble for any spotlight they can find, even if it burns them alive. It started with a Facebook post. I wouldn't have seen it if Amy, her old friend, hadn't sent me the screenshot. Madison had written some melodramatic essay about the pain of being abandoned by someone you love and how money changes people. She never used my name, but she might as well have written it in all caps. The comments section was full of her usual cheerleaders, telling her she was too good for him anyway. I ignored it for about 3 days. Then came the podcast. One of those low-rent relationship advice shows hosted by a guy who probably still lives in his mom's basement. Madison was a guest, spinning this wild narrative about how she supported her husband's dreams, only to be discarded when his ego got too big. By the time I listened to it, friends were already sending me clips, saying, "Dude, you gonna let her get away with this?" I debated it. Part of me wanted to just let her dig her own grave. But then she crossed the line. She brought my dad into it. She implied he was some controlling tyrant who couldn't stand to see his son happy. That's when I decided enough was enough. The opportunity came quicker than I expected. My company was co-sponsoring a charity fundraiser with my dad's firm. The event was publicized, tickets were sold online, and because Madison's ego is larger than her common sense, she showed up, dressed to kill, as if she'd been invited. When she walked in, you could feel the shift in the room. People whispered, pointed, glanced at me. She strutted over like she owned the place, wearing that fake sweet smile she used when she was about to stab you verbally. "Wow," she said. "Looks like you're doing well. For now." I didn't even look at her. "Security," I called, motioning to the 2 guys near the door. She laughed, thinking I was joking. "Oh, come on, you're not really." "Escort her out," I said. "She's not welcome here." The guards didn't hesitate. Madison's face went from smug to stunned in seconds. She tried protesting, loudly of course, but I didn't raise my voice. I just stood there, calm as a stone, while they led her out in front of everyone. The whispers got louder. Cameras flashed. And just like that, her little stunt had backfired spectacularly. Later that night, I posted one simple thing on my business page. Some bridges aren't burned. They're demolished to make sure nothing toxic ever crosses again. No names, no details, but everyone knew. After that, the noise stopped. No more posts, no more podcasts, no more stage sightings. Madison faded into the background like a bad trend finally going out of style. I didn't feel the rush I expected. No fireworks, no triumphant music in my head. Just silence. Real, deep, peaceful silence. For the first time since the day in the office lobby, I felt like I could finally take a full breath. The final nail wasn't about humiliating her. It was about showing myself I wasn't afraid of her anymore. She couldn't rewrite the past or twist the truth to her advantage. Not when I refused to play along. And that was the real closure. When the dust finally settled, I found myself in a strange place. Not physically. I was still in the same house, drinking the same coffee in the same kitchen. But mentally, it felt like I'd moved to a new city. One where the air was cleaner, the streets were quieter, and the neighbors weren't snakes. It's been months since Madison vanished from my life. No calls, no messages, no sudden appearances at events she's not invited to. Troy's a ghost too. Last I heard, working some sales job in another state. The only time their names come up is when people are reminiscing about the gala or the fundraiser. Stories that now get told with a laugh and a shake of the head. Here's the thing I learned. Betrayal doesn't destroy you. It strips you. It takes away your illusions, your comfort zone, your lazy belief that someone will stay loyal just because they said, "I do." And yeah, that process hurts like hell. But once you've been stripped down, you see what's left. What's real. For me, what was left was a man who had been selling himself short. I'd been living small, keeping my head down, trying not to step too far into my dad's world because I thought it would make me look weak. Madison used that against me. She turned my pride into a weapon and convinced me I wasn't enough. Now, my business is thriving. I'm surrounded by people who actually want me to succeed, not because it benefits them, but because they believe in what I'm building. I'm sharper with who I let into my circle. I listen to my gut, because those little signs everyone talks about, they're not little. They're warning flares, and ignoring them is like turning your back on a burning building. If I could talk to the guy I was before all this, the guy driving home that night thinking his biggest problem was the traffic, I'd tell him a few things. Love isn't blind. If you can't look at someone clearly without making excuses for their behavior, it's not love. It's fear of being alone. Money doesn't change people, it reveals them. Madison didn't suddenly become greedy. She always was. She just found an opportunity to show it. Silence can be louder than shouting. When she tried to humiliate me, my calm was more effective than any insult I could have thrown back. Don't try to win back what's not worth keeping. There's a twisted instinct in betrayal that makes you want to fix it, to prove you're worth staying for. Don't let them go. I've also realized something about revenge. It's overrated. I didn't need to ruin Madison's life. She was perfectly capable of doing that on her own. All I had to do was step out of the blast radius. If you're reading this and you're where I was, staring down the barrel of betrayal, here's my advice. Don't waste your time trying to understand why. There is no why that will make it make sense. Focus on what you do next. Protect your dignity like it's the last valuable thing you own, because it might be for a while. And when the chance comes to humiliate them, if it comes, think about whether you actually need to. Sometimes the loudest statement you can make is to walk away without looking back. Madison's gone. Her chapter in my life is over. I'm not bitter anymore. I'm just done. And that's a better feeling than revenge ever could be. So if you take anything from my story, take this. Losing someone who can betray you isn't a loss. It's a damn upgrade.